Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Everyone. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare A little louder. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo. Jai. So please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai. So welcome to Bhaktivedanta Manor. Welcome to the evening class in which we'll be discussing Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And we are studying chapter 3, which is entitled Karma Yoga, text 41. And this is, Krishna is now concluding a section in which he's been talking about lust, our greatest enemy, and material desire, right, which keeps us chasing after things here in the material world and keeps us taking birth again in material bodies, lifetime after lifetime, chasing those things and getting frustrated, but never giving up hope. One day we will be happy through sense gratification. We will make it work, but it never quite works. All right, so we have the verse on the board there. I'll recite one line and then you respond, repeat the line, and we'll go to the next line. Tasmad tvam indriyan yado niyamya bharatarshaba papmanam prajahiyenam Jnana Vijnana Nashanam Tasmat Tvam Indriyan Yado Niyamya Bharatarshava Papmanam Prajahiyenam Jnana Vijnana Nashanam. Anyone like to try reciting the verse? Tasmad tvam indriyan yado niyamya bharatarshava papmanam prajahiyenam Jnana Vijnana Nashanam. Tasmad tvam indriyan yado niyamya bharatarshava papmanam prajahiyenam Jnana Vijnana Nashanam. Okay, so let's do the word for word. Tasmat, therefore. Tvam, you. Indriyani, senses. Ado, in the beginning. Niyamya, by regulating. Bharatarishaba, O chief among the descendants of Bharat. Papmanam, the great symbol of sin. Prajahi, curb. He, certainly. Enam, this. Jnana, of knowledge. Vijnana, and scientific knowledge of the pure soul. Nashanam, the destroyer. So, translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. So, repeat. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Purport. The Lord advised Arjuna to regulate the senses from the very beginning, so that he could curb the greatest sinful enemy, lust, which destroys the urge for self-realization and specific knowledge of the self. Jnana refers to knowledge of self as distinguished from non-self, or in other words, knowledge that the spirit soul is not the body. Vijnana refers to specific knowledge of the spirit soul's constitutional position and his relationship to the Supreme Soul. It is explained thus in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9.31. Jnanam paramaguyam me yad vijnana samanvitam sarahasyam tarangam cha grihana gaditam maya. The knowledge of the Self and Supreme Self is very confidential and mysterious, but such knowledge and specific realization can be understood if explained with their various aspects by the Lord Himself. Bhagavad Gita gives us that general and specific knowledge of the Self. The living entities are parts and parcels of the Lord, and therefore they are meant simply to serve the Lord. This consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So from the very beginning of life, one has to learn this Krishna consciousness, and thereby one may become fully Krishna conscious and act accordingly. Lust is only the perverted reflection of the love of God, which is natural for every living entity. But if one is educated in Krishna consciousness from the very beginning, that natural love of God cannot deteriorate into lust. When love of God deteriorates into lust, it is very difficult to return to the normal condition. Nonetheless, Krishna consciousness is so powerful that even a late beginner can become a lover of God by following the regulative principles of devotional service. So from any stage of life, or from the time of understanding its urgency, one can begin regulating the senses in Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord, and turn the lust into love of Godhead, the highest perfectional stage of human life. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Militandena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatade Shatarane. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the verse again. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. So, what Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing in the purport is a few things. One thing is this idea of ado, which means in the beginning. So, there's a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is spoken by Prahlad Maharaj, where he says, Komaram acharat pragyo dharmam bhagavatam iha durlabham manusham janma tad apyadruvam artadam. Yeah, so he says that this human form of life is temporary, just like any body is temporary, right? Every species of life, they're all born and they all die. So human form of life is the same. But even though it's adruvam, even though it's temporary, it has a lot of artha. It's very valuable. Because this and it's very rare, right? He says this manusham janmanam durlabha. It's very rare, because out of 8,400,000 species, or 8 million species of different kinds of animals, we got the human form of life, and it's very special because in this human form of life, we actually have intelligence which is advanced enough to be able to think philosophically. And to ask deep existential questions, right? Like, who am I? What am I doing in this world? What is the purpose of life? Where did this universe come from? What is the source? What is the goal? Why am I suffering? Why is there so much suffering in the world? So when we start asking these, we have to ask these. If we don't ask these questions in the human form of life, then we're not making proper use of the human form of life. So we have to ask the questions and also very seriously seek the answers to those questions, right? Because oftentimes the questions come up, right? Like that's a distinctive feature of human life, is that children are born and they start asking questions, right? All of you who are parents or older brothers or sisters, you know that sometimes your younger siblings can drive you crazy with the questions, right? Like, what is that? Oh, why is it like that? Oh, why is a cloud in the sky? Why is that person walking down the street? Why is this bug walking on the leaf? Right? Like all these questions, they want to know, what is everything? Why is everything? How is everything happening? Oh, how does that thing work? How is it that you talk in here and the sound comes out there? It's like they want to understand everything. So this is the drive of the human spirit, is to be inquisitive, right? Atato Brahma Jigyasa. So now that you have attained this human form of life, you need to ask questions, but not just mundane questions about how do the things in this world work, but Brahma Jigyasa. We need to inquire about the absolute truth. What is the absolute truth? Who is God? Who am I? What is my relationship with God? How do I connect with Him? So these are the real questions, the questions that when we get the answers to those questions, they will eternally benefit us, and they'll eternally benefit everyone who comes in contact with us, because we have actual knowledge. So this is Gyan, right? He's saying that Jnana Vijnana. So Jnana means, Prabhupada says, Jnana is knowledge that the soul is not the body. So knowing that I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul, I'm an eternal spiritual being. And then Vijnana is the specifics of that. It's like when you realize, so Jnana is a little theoretical, like, okay, I understand theoretically that I'm not this body, I'm a soul. And then Vijnana is when you actually realize that I really feel that I'm a soul, and I know that I'm not this body. And not only that, but I know the specifics about my constitutional position in relationship with Krishna. Right? I know that I'm an eternal servant of Krishna. I serve Krishna in a particular way, in a particular mood, like that. So all these things become known to us the more we practice devotional service and the more we hear about Krishna. So, but the problem is that lust comes along, right? Lust rears its ugly head and it distracts us from the pursuit of knowledge. It makes us stop asking questions about, who we are and who is God and how I can connect with Him. And we just start asking questions like, how can I earn more money? And how can I, get to know this person better who I want to have a romantic relationship with? And how do I, manage to, whatever, all these things that we want to enjoy. We start asking those questions, which simply lead to frustration. And they become so compelling and so all-absorbing that we become obsessed with the objects of the senses by the influence of lust, that we forget about the important questions, the big questions, the questions that really, are in our ultimate self-interest. So that's what Krishna is warning us about. He's saying, be very careful about lust, because it will destroy your knowledge. It will destroy your realizations, and it'll just wreak havoc in any kind of spiritual progress that you're trying to make, which is the real purpose of this human form of life. So in that verse, Dhruva Maharaj is saying, Komaram acharat pragyo. He says that from the very beginning of life, from childhood. So there are different stages, right? There's Kaumara. When we talk about Krishna's pastimes, we say Krishna is when he's a Kumar, when he's Nanda Kumar, right? Then this is his childhood pastimes where he breaks the butter pot, and in the Damodar Lila is in his Kumara stage of life. He's stealing butter, and he's at home with Mother Yashoda, stealing the butter and feeding it to the monkeys and things like that. So that's his Kumar Lila. And then next comes Poganda, which is childhood, where Krishna starts going out into the pasturing grounds, and he starts playing with his friends and so many games. So that's kind of like, when children start school and they start, playing sports and things like that, right? And then there's Yovanam, means youth. So that's kind of like, puberty and a few years, teenage years and that. So when, kids start getting interested in the opposite sex, they start getting more serious about their studies and their future, and they start getting inquisitive and wanting to do adult things. And so that's Yovanam, youth. And then, of course, Krishna doesn't age past youth, but he's Nava Yovanam. So, but we do. So then after that, there's, adulthood and old age and dwindling, and then ultimately the death of the body. So what Prahlad Maharaj is saying is that we should start learning about and practicing Bhagavat Dharma, or the ultimate religion that brings us closer to Bhagavan, that brings us closer to the Lord. We should start that from the Kumar stage, from the very, very beginning of childhood, from early childhood, like before 5 years old even. We should start learning about Krishna and learning how to serve Krishna, and chanting the holy names and engaging in these processes, worshiping Krishna. So this is a great benefit of children who are born in devotee families, is that from the very beginning of their life, they're coming to the temple. We see, just a minute ago there were some young children here, so it's nice that the families bring their small children. Small children, they come to like the temple, right? The kirtan goes on, they're dancing and jumping in kirtan, they're seeing the deities, and they're looking and trying to just take it all in. They're taking Mahaprasadam, and there are classes also, right? There's like Krishna Club classes for children, where they can do children activities and hear Krishna stories and like that. So this is what we should be doing. This is the responsibility of parents, is to... Lord Rishabhadev says that actually one shouldn't become a mother or father unless one is capable of delivering their dependent, delivering the child from the cycle of repeated birth and death. So to become a parent in this world is a huge responsibility. And of course you might think, well, all right, well, I just got married and I really want to have children, and I don't think I'm very capable of liberating my child from the cycle of repeated birth and death. Does that mean I can't have children? Right? So the thing is that try your best to become qualified, and in the meantime, make sure the children get the association of devotees who can help them in those ways. So if you feel like, well, I'm not such a very good devotee, but I want my children to get the benefit of spiritual life and Krishna consciousness, because I know this is the most important thing for the spirit soul in this world. So then bring them to the temple, enroll them in the Krishna Club or Sunday school or different devotional activities and children's activities that are age appropriate. There's Gurukul, right? There's Avanti schools. There's options here in the UK. We have a nursery. So from the very beginning of childhood, it's very important. Prabhupada says that if one is educated in Krishna consciousness from the very beginning, that natural love of God cannot deteriorate into lust. Because it's usual, like, of course we're all coming with our karmic baggage from previous lifetimes, but, children, despite that, there still is an innocence to childhood. Right? There still is that children, they're not so afflicted by lust. That comes later. Right? So if we can give children a very pure upbringing, a very pure and sanctified environment to grow up in, then that lust doesn't become very deep-rooted, right? Anyone who has a material body is going to have material desires, but they don't become overwhelming, put it that way. They don't totally destroy one's spiritual opportunities, basically. So, yeah, it's very important from the very, very beginning of life. And then another way of, well, then Prabhupada says that he says, nonetheless, see, because for the rest of us, we didn't get the opportunity, and maybe some of us here got the opportunity, but, some of us didn't get the opportunity to practice Krishna consciousness when we were in our Kumar age, or even in our Poganda stage, or maybe even in our Yovana stage, as it was adults when we started thinking seriously about spiritual life. So then, is there no hope for us? And Prabhupada says, there is. He says, nonetheless, Krishna consciousness is so powerful that even a late beginner can become a lover of God by following the regulative principles of devotional service. So we can all be late bloomers. Better late than never, right? So he says, from any stage of life or from the time of understanding its urgency. So that's very important, to understand the urgency of Krishna consciousness. That this is really the singular most important thing in our lives, is to try to become Krishna conscious. Because everything else is going to be lost at the time of death. All the money that we earned, all the reputation, the fame, all of our followers on Instagram, all of our subscribers on YouTube, it's going to be over. All of our friends on Facebook, it's just going to be over. So the position that we might have gained, all of our laurels, our accolades in education, our bachelor's degrees, our master's degrees, our PhDs, and all of our certificates and things like that are all gone, right? We don't take any of them with us. And if we have to take birth again, we have to start again from ABC, 1, 2, 3, goo goo, gaga, mama, dada. So what's the use of all these things in the ultimate issue? They can benefit us in this life, to the extent that they don't distract us from what's important, but at the end they're all gone. So the real urgency is Krishna consciousness. And if we don't practice Krishna consciousness, then we're going to have to take birth again to do it in the next life. And if we don't take it seriously in that life, we're going to have to take birth. We're just going to have to continue taking birth until we do understand the urgency and we do take it up with seriousness and sincerity and determination. So better start now, right? Because every birth in the material world means so much suffering. We're going to get sick, we're going to get old, we're going to get hurt, people are going to annoy us, people are going to mistreat us in so many ways. And it's stressful, right? It's difficult. So, and as Kali Yuga progresses, it's going to get more and more difficult. As time goes on, life becomes more difficult. Nowadays I see, the younger generation, a lot of the trials and traumas that they have to experience in my generation, we didn't have to worry about those things. Life was a little simpler, and relationships were a little more normal, and people were kind of like a little more reasonable in the way they did things. I don't know, things are just going downhill fast. So we don't want to have to take birth again when it's, even worse, and have to grow up in a society that's so unnatural and so disconnected from the heart. So, yeah, this is very urgent. So as soon as we understand its urgency, we just have to take to Krishna consciousness. And bhakti is so powerful that even if we start late, we can still transform our lust into love of God and achieve the highest perfectional stage of life. So another way of understanding this from the very beginning is that, in reference to something from the last chapter, from 262, chapter 262, where Krishna is talking about the the sequence of degradation, of how lust degrades us. Oh, I went too far. I'm just going to go to that. Yeah, so he says, Dhyayato vishayan pumsam sangas te shubhajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodo bhajayate. So he talks about how lust arises by contemplating the objects of the senses. So when we see something, yesterday we were talking about how there's lust. Lust is situated in all the senses, in the mind, in the intelligence. And we're giving examples of how lust is active in all of the senses. So as soon as the senses go towards any of the sense objects, and that we stay contemplating it, we stay thinking about it a little too long, then we become attached to it, and then that's when lust becomes very strong. And then as soon as lust rises, then we get emotional about things. We either get like super excited about it if we think we're going to get it, or we get frustrated if we can't get what we want, if we can't attain the object of our senses, or we cry like anything, we lament and we grieve if we lose it after we got it. So all of these emotions come up. And then the next thing it says is krodat bhavati samoha. So when we become anger due to frustration, then we become deluded. Right? We get completely deluded, we get bewildered. And then samohat smriti vibrama, from that delusion becomes bewilderment of memory. We forget about the higher values of life, we forget what's right and wrong, and we just do things that are against our own principles. And then smriti brahmsad buddhi nasho, our intelligence is destroyed. Nasho, it's the same word here, jnana vijnana nashanam, that lust is a destroyer of knowledge and self-realization, and here it says it's destroyer of intelligence. And when buddhi is destroyed, when intelligence is destroyed, then one falls down. So this is a sequence that Krishna warns us about, that if you think about the objects of the senses, that's when it starts, that's where it starts. So then he's saying, in the very beginning, we need to curb this lust. So in the very beginning, as soon as the senses start going out to some sense object and we start, feeling that attachment arising, we need to just cut it. We just need to be like, no, not going there. Right? So you see something that's, attractive to your eyes, and you're like getting drawn into it, and you're thinking, oh yeah, wow, I really want that thing. Then as soon as that desire comes up, then you have to be like, no, this is just material desire, this is just lust, this is just illusion. I'm a soul, I have nothing to do with that thing, that is not favorable for my Krishna consciousness. How am I going to, maybe I can use it in Krishna's service, but it's a little risky. I think I better just leave it alone. Right? So if in the very beginning of lust arises, we're able to pull ourselves away from it before we get to these later stages, because after a while it comes to a point of no return, right? Where lust becomes so strong and we become deluded and we lose our intelligence, and then it's like we've lost our bearings, we've lost our moral compass, and we are not able to pull ourselves out of that degrading activity, and we just end up doing something that we regret later, and which causes a setback in our spiritual progress. So, yeah, we need to be vigilant. So in spiritual life we need to be very vigilant, very conscious of what's happening in our minds, what's happening in our hearts, what our senses are doing. We need to really take stock of all of our faculties and be very self-aware. Right? Be very self-aware. That's why we have to be very sober. So one of our principles is no intoxication. Because when we take intoxication, we lose self-awareness. And we become kind of oblivious to what we're even doing. Right? A lot of people, when they get intoxicated afterwards, they don't even know what they did. They said all kinds of crazy things that they would have never said or done in a sober state. because they lost their self-awareness. So we want to be very sober and understand what's going on. How is my mind reacting to this? What's going on in my heart? And just be introspective about these matters, and then we can observe in ourselves. Oh wow, I really got attracted to this thing or this person or this music or something. I don't think that was very good for my spiritual life. I need to take a step back now. I need to go and sit down and chant a couple of good rounds, or read the Bhagavad Gita, or go and do some service with the devotees and get myself back on track. So from the very beginning, we need to do some interference program in our own consciousness so that we don't get degraded. So, otherwise, Krishna calls it papmanam, this great symbol of sin. Otherwise, lust is just going to drag us down into sinful life, and we'll degrade ourselves, and then we'll suffer. Because for every action, there's a reaction. And if we do sinful activities, then sinful reactions manifest in the form of various kinds of sufferings. So nobody likes to suffer. So we don't want to do bad things, otherwise we get bad karma, which is going to lead to a bad life, right? And we want to have a good life, so we want to try to do good things and things that are pleasing to Krishna. And then when Krishna is pleased with us, then he blesses us with all kinds of, with happiness, with enlightenment, with wisdom, with good association, with nice service opportunities, and many avenues for growth and self-improvement and spiritual development. So the choice is ours, really, right? Krishna gives us our free will, and he enables us to decide for ourselves how we want to live our lives. There's so many opportunities out there, there's so many activities we can perform, so many things we can see and do and hear and touch and smell and taste. So it's up to us, right? Whether we want to do things in a way that's favorable for Krishna, which is also means favorable for us because we're parts and parcels of Krishna, or try to follow our material desires, allow ourselves to be victims of lust and become degraded and basically suffer birth after birth after birth, life after life after life. Of course, that's not what Krishna wants for us. He doesn't want us to suffer, and he doesn't want us to take birth again. Prabhupada said that Krishna is more eager for us to go back home, back to Godhead, back to the spiritual world, than we even are to go. So that's why he comes, that's why he speaks the Bhagavad Gita, that's why he gives us his holy name, that's why he sends his pure devotees to this world like Srila Prabhupada, coming down from the spiritual world to teach us the process of bhakti, to demonstrate by his exemplary behavior how to be a pure devotee of Krishna, to explain things, right? Prabhupada spent sleepless nights. He would, from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., when everybody else was asleep, Srila Prabhupada would be translating the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam and writing his purports so that we could have this knowledge. So Krishna arranges all these opportunities for us to learn and connect and purify ourselves and serve him. So Krishna is doing his part. He's doing everything, right? He's here, the deities, the temple, the community, so many courses and seminars and retreats and things. Everything is here for us to make our lives perfect. It's just a question of whether we're going to choose to take advantage of these opportunities or whether we're going to do something else, whether we're going to follow the dictates of lust, who Krishna says is our enemy. So do we want to be guided by our actual friend, by our ever well-wisher, Srila Prabhupada, and his devotees of Krishna, or do we want to follow the dictates of our enemy? So the obvious thing is we want to do what our well-wishers are advising us to do and not what our enemies are advising us to do, because to follow the enemy means you're basically doomed, right? You're going to be defeated. So Krishna is very kind to lay all this out very clearly for us in Bhagavad Gita. This book is so practical, so useful, and we need to keep reading these verses again and again and thinking about them very deeply. And that goes back to the initial thing about the importance of the human form of life, that we, only in this human form of life do we have the higher intelligence to be able to think deeply, to understand this spiritual subject matters. Right? So we need to do a lot more of that, right? And prioritize that. Set aside time every single day for chanting, for hearing, for reading the scriptures. And gradually we'll see how our consciousness is going to change. Our spiritual intelligence is going to kick in, and we're going to, heart becomes purified, and we're able to resist all the temptations of lust. We're going to be able to be strong and actually fight. Lust is our enemy. So when you have an enemy, it's like you have to sometimes do battle. So when lust comes and attacks us, then if we're chanting and hearing and reading and associating with devotees, then we're going to have spiritual strength to be able to counterattack. We need to levy a counterattack and drive lust far away, like make lust retreat, put its tail between its legs and run away crying, and hopefully not come back. Although the way life is that lust comes back again, right? Our material desires, they will subside for a while and they'll rise again, and then again we need to confront them, again we need to put them down, again we need to decide, no, I'm going to serve Krishna, I'm not going to serve my enemy, lust. So I'll stop there, and some time for questions or comments. Yeah. Yes, Anand Achut Prabhu.
Sometimes we, after reading Bhagavad Gita instructions regarding how to deal with lust, we try to give our best in everything, trying very hard to chant good quality around, keeping ourselves engaged. But still, somehow, some form or the other lust comes. Sometimes some thought will come, or if we don't leave any space, it will come in dreams or something. It becomes frustrating that I've been working hard since so long, it's still not going good. So how to deal with that frustration?
Yeah. I mean, we just need to keep going, right? The process works, so it works gradually. We feel that we experience the effects gradually. Like, one senior devotee once explained to me that it's like when you first come to Krishna consciousness, it's like your mind and all of its material desires, all of its lustful desires and crazy ideas are like screaming at you all the time, right? And it's like you're at a concert and you're standing right in front of the speaker, right? You know, these like rock concerts, they have these huge speakers, and if you stand next to it, it's like so loud that you can feel it in your bones, you know, it's like shaking. Physically, you can feel it. So, and if somebody tries to talk to you in front of that speaker, it's like, forget it. You can't hear anything. All you can hear is the music coming out of the speaker. So in the beginning of Krishna consciousness, all the material demands of our minds are like that. They're just like, that's all we can hear. We're just getting pummeled with it. And it's like hopeless, right? But as we practice Krishna consciousness, then it's like we're gradually moving away from the speaker. Right, we're going to like the middle of the concert hall, then we're in the back row, and then we get outside the door and down the street, you know. So it's not that the music stops, it's just that we're able to separate ourselves from it. And then gradually you get to the point where you're far enough away from the loudspeaker, from the sound system, that it's just some very faint, sound in the background, and you barely even notice it. Maybe, if you're just totally not doing anything in absolute silence, you might be like, oh yeah, there's a concert tonight, there's some music over there, whatever. It doesn't bother you. So it's like that our material desires are like that. Krishna says in the verse in the second canto that, what's he say? He said that one who is not disturbed by by the incessant flow of material desires, which are like rivers flowing into the ocean. And he said that person is, what does he say about that person? Is what? Is what, Subhadra? He can attain peace, yeah. Not one who is striving to fulfill the desire. That's what he says. So the point there is that material desires are constantly flowing to the mind. That's what it means to be a conditioned soul in the material world. We've been here for so many lifetimes. And Prabhupada says, as long as we have a material body, the material desires are going to be there. The senses are going to want some gratification, right? So we just need to accept the fact that there are always going to be some thoughts coming into the mind because of our conditioning. But as we progress in Krishna consciousness, they're going to be more quiet, right? And they'll come to the point where we're barely even aware of them anymore. Yeah. So something to look forward to. Yeah, there was one, Adikarta Prabhu? He's from England, but he lives in the U.S. And so whenever he goes, now he's like almost 80 years old. He's been practicing Krishna consciousness for so many years, such a stalwart preacher, book distributor. He still goes out and distributes books every day, practically. And he's raised a family in Krishna consciousness, done so many things. And every time he gives class, he's always saying, he's like, just stick to it. This is the best life. You're not going to get a better life, And the more you go on in Krishna consciousness, it just becomes more and more wonderful, becomes more ecstatic. It all becomes so much easier. And, all the things that you struggle with when you're young, a new devotee, it's like, it's all gone, it's all good. Those things don't bother you anymore. So it's just nice to hear, the senior devotee's been practicing for 50 years or something, be like, that assuring the rest of us that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Because sometimes in the beginning of devotional service, it's just so difficult. We're just being torn in all these directions because we want to be Krishna conscious, but we also want this and that and all this and that. And what are the devotees going to think? Oh no, all these mental platform things. But then afterwards it's like, yeah, I'm just a devotee. I just serve Krishna. It's all good. Krishna takes care of me. He's always maintained me. He's always protected me. I have nice association. I have really nice devotee friends who I've had for decades, and they accept me for who I am, and I love them like anything, and I know they're always going to be there for me, and Krishna's always there for me. And what more could I ask, Prasadam is there. Everything is just simple, easy, good. You have taste for the holy name. You love chanting. You love serving. Everything is just wonderful, right? Simply wonderful. Okay, anything else? Swanja? Yeah. Well, they may be natural for a conditioned soul. They may seem natural, but for the soul, those are abnormal activities, right? For the actual soul. So, yeah, that's like a disease condition of life. And for a spirit soul to be attracted to sinful activity, that's like symptoms of a diseased condition. So we need to understand what it is, right? That these are symptoms of a diseased condition. So I don't want to exacerbate the disease by indulging in those things. I need to cure myself. I need to get cured. So then we need to approach the doctor, right, who is the spiritual master. And then spiritual master will engage us, just like a doctor will give a diagnosis, give some medicine, give diet, give treatment, maybe some exercise program, some physical therapy or whatever, right? So in the same way we go to the spiritual master gives us a diet, Krishna Prasadam. Right? It gives us exercise program, dancing in kirtan, going out in Harinam, going out in book distribution, doing all the 64 items of devotional service. It gives us the medicine, which is hearing, right? It says that in the Bhagavatam, that this hearing Krishna Katha is the right medicine for curing the soul of material disease. And the holy name also, Bhaktivedanta Thakur says this is the Harinam. What did he say? Jeev Jago. Enechaya Shadimaya Nashivara Lagi Harinam Mahamantra Lao Tumi Magi. This holy name, the Hare Krishna mantra, is the medicine that will destroy all of our ignorance. So, yeah. So it might seem because these activities, meat eating, illicit sex, gambling, and are so widespread, it seems normal, right? It seems natural because that's what everybody's doing. But it's kind of like there's like a pandemic, it's worse than the COVID, This pandemic is the material disease, that everybody is afflicted with this disease and everybody's just suffering and gasping for breath in this material world. And we need to get better, we need to get cured. So we need to take the medicine, hearing about Krishna, hearing from scripture like Bhagavad Gita, chanting the holy name, taking Krishna Prasadam, getting association with healthy people, learning how to live a healthy life, and then associating with devotees. And then, so when Krishna says, what can repression accomplish, he's talking not about repressing our sinful desires. Those we should repress. He's talking about repressing your psychophysical nature in terms of your varnashram identifications. So he's saying, Arjuna, you're a Kshatriya, you're a warrior, you're trained for this, there's a battle at hand, you need to fight. And don't repress your nature. So we need to work according to our psychophysical nature in this world to purify our identity, basically to come to the point where our identity is totally pure and spiritual, that I'm just this eternal servant of Krishna, and then work under the guidance of the spiritual master and in a mood of full surrender to Krishna. Is that okay? Jai. All right, so we've learned a little bit about lust, how from the very beginning of life, from the early age of childhood, we need to try to curb our material desires and redirect all of our energy to the service of Krishna for our ultimate happiness and for the benefit of everyone. And even if we didn't start from childhood, start now. As soon as we realize the urgency. It's better late than never. And because bhakti is so powerful that it can purify the heart of anyone, no matter what they've done, no matter what their background is, no matter where they were born, anyone can become purified and reawaken their love of God and attain pure transcendental knowledge and realize their eternal constitutional loving relationship with Krishna by the process of bhakti and go back home, back to Godhead. So we all have this great opportunity. Let's please understand the importance of the urgency and really take to it with determination. That's Krishna's recommendation in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanandi. So we have 2 minutes until the curtains are going to open for Arti. So everyone can get ready.